Bottom line in business. Voice America Business.
Welcome to CIO Talk Radio with your host, Sanjog Gall. All comments, views, and opinions expressed on this show are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers. Here's Sanjog Gall.
Good morning and welcome to CIO Talk Radio. To learn more about the show, please visit www.ciotalkradio.com. This show is brought to you by Promethean, the leader in managed EDI services. Today's topic is Burn the Desktop. Let's work online. Our guests for today's show are Greg Simpson, who's the Chief Technology Officer with GE. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Great. I'm excited about the topic. It's something that's really of interest in the industry in general.
Great. Now, then we have Joshua Holbrook. He's the Director of Enterprise Research with Yankee Group. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Sanjog. Thanks for having me.
Great. Great to have you both, and I'm sure this is an interesting topic to discuss because while we want to move to the jazzy new world of Web 2.0, but we are also being joined at the hip with the desktop world. So how are we going to make that transition, if at all that transition is worthwhile? So that's where we are going to discuss this. So now, coming to the same point where desktops are part and parcel of our lives. Even right now as we speak, we must be having one desktop in front of us for each one of us. Now, and that's where we are trying to challenge this topic is it really going to become a Web 2.0 world where we will not have desktops, just maybe a thin client browser types, and that's what will be our computing world? Greg?
You know, I think people love their desktops, but the thing they love even more is collaborating with other people. If you look at things like the growth of social networking, you see that people want to and need to interact with others. You know, in GE, it's really driven by our growth, our globalization, our company overall, you know, needs to collaborate. We're a 24/7 business operation, and we've got an urgent need to always improve our productivity, and collaboration is a big part of that. So I think, you know, what the Web 2.0 applications bring to us is the ability to interact better, and work on those documents in a way that is more real-time than ever before.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Greg. And the thing I would add to that is, and one of the reasons I think it has so much momentum and will continue to have momentum is that, yes, it enables that collaboration, which is so critical to the employee and what they want, but it also alleviates some of the IT department's responsibilities around upgrade and allows them to focus on some things other than just kind of keeping the network running. So both sides stand to gain.
And in fact, we wanted to challenge the very fact that we are talking about collaboration. And so if you feel that the people want to collaborate, or are you mandating them to collaborate, and that's why you're introducing Web 2.0? Was technology the barrier in the past, or was it the people's mindset was not as tuned to be in a collaborative mode? Greg?
We've been using collaboration in GE for a number of years, and we've seen it really helps improve productivity, and people are looking for ways to make themselves more effective in an environment where their coworkers aren't in the same location as them, so they need tools to help them be effective in doing their jobs. We've got a number of internal tools that we use today in a collaborative environment. Really, external tools are just a natural extension of that. And as our business becomes more attuned to partnerships with other businesses, external collaboration becomes more and more important. So the ability to use a cloud solution that's common across multiple businesses extends our ability to collaborate outside of our enterprise and into other companies that we work with.
Yeah, I mean, companies like GE, for example, and many others, I mean, the world is becoming more globalized, which means you have more employees and more partners and more vendors dispersed around the world. And so you need a means by which to sort of collaborate with them that is more flexible than what we've had in the past. And I would add to that is that, you know, as the world becomes more competitive and you have more competitors in sort of low-cost regions, companies are sort of compelled to find ways to become more efficient. And one of the ways they're doing that is to have their employees work remotely. And that they do that for two reasons. They do that, well, probably more than two, but the two primary reasons is that it enables the company to reduce its real estate footprint, and it also enables you to tap talent everywhere around the world, not just where you have offices. And so kind of Web 2.0 tools and technologies fit perfectly into that dynamic because they are flexible. You can have access anywhere, and it does enable people to remain connected to the organization and connected to their colleagues, even when they might be working out of their home office.
Now, is collaboration the thing that people have to do? Given in an enterprise environment, yes, that's great that people are collaborating, and that will definitely improve their productivity. But then at the same time, there are many other things that you have to do for which just purely going on a cloud-based computing model and or Web 2.0, is that really going to cut it? Josh?
Well, it's a piece of the puzzle. I mean, I say no. It's not just about technology. I mean, when I think about what it takes to have effective collaboration, you need reinforcement by the organization that these tools need to be or should be used and encouraged the use of the technology. You need to have policy to help people migrate to Web 2.0 technology. So there are no shortage of examples of companies rolling out a wiki, for example, that just fail miserably. I mean, there's nothing sadder than a blank web page sitting in front of you with no content on it. And if that's what people see when they get started, then they're not going to be compelled to come back to it to engage with that wiki, for example. You need to have policy that gets people to use it, that seeds content, that seeds discussion, there's an actual use case for it, when and how do you use it, at least give some people some ideas, and then ultimately as they become engaged, they'll generate their own ideas about how it can be used. But they do need a goose to get started. So it's not just about the technology, it's about technology and policy.
How would you think about culture?
I think the culture supports, the culture in GE supports change. And, one of the things we do is continually drive change. If you look at the history of GE's collaborative environment, it's always been about a business requirement or a business need. We started many years ago developing what I think is the core foundation of our collaboration space, which is a good directory. And the directory came out of an org directory, which came out of an Oracle HR effort, which came out of a need for understanding our employee base and being able to manage our employees and transition them across many different businesses. That org directory provided a foundation to do things like share files. So you could then go to a particular user and through a web-based interface get to their files that they want to share with you, that are properly access controlled. It enabled things like instant messaging that had buddy lists that were created from distribution lists. So all these things were intermingled. Those distribution lists were based on either organization structures or other things. So you could tie together all these different aspects, but they all built off of an underlying business requirement. So even as far as when you went to do social networking, when you saw social networking develop in the industry, GE developed professional networking and said, we've already got all the foundations. Now we simply need to put tagging capabilities on top of our web-based organization directory. And we need to interlink our existing file sharing capabilities with that organization directory. So we were able to build a lot of this very quickly because we had all the foundations, but those foundations were all based on a culture that accepts change and a culture that focuses first and foremost on the business requirement.
So are we at a point where we would say that, fine, we have got a hang of what Web 2.0 is, what working purely online is, and we still have some applications which have not been migrated, maybe because it's tough to migrate them, maybe it is in that period where we are working on it, or there are some of them which we cannot simply migrate, so we may have to replace them with their online counterpart. Until that time, we will be, using desktops, but eventually we could just let them go. Josh?
Well, Sanjog, one of the things you mentioned a few minutes ago was culture, and culture plays a big part in Web 2.0 and the adoption within a company. I mean, some companies are reticent to let go of the technology that they have in-house, and that is to say, they want to maintain absolute control over that and don't want any third party hosting it or involved in the upgrades in a kind of other than kind of pushing them out to them. So, there's no one size fits all. It comes down to what an organization is comfortable with.
And when you say that an organization comfortable with, you mean to say people within it. And then it kind of extends this question into my favorite one, which is baby boomer, Gen X, and Gen Y.
Yeah.
Do you think those three different flavors of people that we deal with are going to provide different level of resistance or acceptance towards this new trend?
You know, so I've actually done some work in that regard, and one of the things that I've found is that there's a little bit of a myth around the adoption of kind of a lot of these Web 2.0 tools, within the enterprise. You know, people say, "Oh, it's all a younger generation thing." It's not a younger generation thing. Boomers are adopting this just as readily as the younger workers. Now, the younger workers might be pushing the envelope a little bit more in terms of what the tools and technologies that they're testing, whether that's at home or at work. But if it enables a person to do their job more effectively, it makes their job easier, it makes them more productive, they're going to use it, regardless of whether that's Web 2.0, Web 1.0, or you name it. Now, Web 2.0 happens to be something that's particularly helpful in achieving kind of higher productivity and making one's job easier. So, you know, the older generation is just as likely to adopt it, and we have sort of data to point that out.
So now you come from the research standpoint where you must have polled a number of organizations. Mm-hmm. Within GE, Greg, what do you think you've seen as these different types of people? Because GE is an older organization. It's been around for a while, so you see all three different flavors coexisting.
We do see differences in the generations, and we've actually studied that in terms of what the generations view as valuable in their career so that we can retain the best employees and make sure that we're adapting our environment. But I think the key is it's really all about change. And GE employees embrace change no matter what generation they're from. And in the IT organization, the hardest part isn't the technology itself. It's driving that change. And there are different ways to facilitate that change. You know, there are tools that make, web apps look more like what you're used to, whether it's using an Outlook-type program to access a web-based email system as a transitional state to make that change easier. But at the end of the day, our IT organization still has a huge role in driving the change or making that change something that our users can take advantage of because they all have the same challenges around increased productivity, global workforce, external partnerships, and those business demands are what are going to drive our GE users to need to change.
So, Greg, this is Josh. If you don't mind. So, what are the differences you're seeing between the boomers, for example, and the millennials in terms of adoption?
I think if I think about millennials, the example we often talk about is, my teenage daughter uses a bunch of tools at home for free. She can video conference with her friends for free. My son can build his own website at home for next to nothing. We look at, and for them it's relatively second nature. We look at the consumer economics of that and say, how can we take advantage of that economically within GE? And more to your question, what are the differences? I think the reality is, some of the kids right out of college that first join GE have more experience using these environments, using these tools, are more comfortable with their laptop and what they need to do to interact virtually than someone that hasn't done that as much outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we spoke about this term productivity, that automatically, triggers this next question, which is related to multitasking. In desktop environment, it's very easy, but in any kind of web application, we all know it is not the easiest. I mean, they are developing Ajax and other things which kind of bring us close to that level of. You can move around across applications that easily, but not to that level as desktop is. So are we waiting for the right technology, or it is just simply a hope that we should have? But then let's talk more about it when we come back from the break. Please stay tuned. So let's see what multitasking is possible in this new world of Web 2.0. Can it come close to the productivity levels that a desktop environment can offer? Please stay tuned.
All we talk about is money. Call us toll-free, 866-472-5790, and talk to the experts. We talk money all the time. Voice America Business.
Looking for flexible ways to scale your IT efforts? Then visit www.avol.com today. Avol helps companies find the global IT talent they need to align their IT and business objectives. Whether it's hiring top IT leadership talent or building a reliable technology team, Avol delivers. To find out how Avol can help your company, visit www.avol.com or call 1-800-947-2832. Avol, delivering global IT talent. That's www.avol, A-V-V-A-L, avol.com. Visit today.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps. The company I'm going to tell you about is the global leader in managed EDI services. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to find out all you can about Promethean software services. The word within the intelligence community is that many of our competitors have chosen Promethean's managed EDI services. I would suggest you start your investigation by clicking on the Promethean link within the CIO Talk Radio website. This tape, Mr. Phelps, will self-destruct in 5 seconds, along with your job, if you don't provide a compelling reason as to why we haven't implemented Promethean's managed EDI solution.
Please sign on to www.prometheanssi.com or call us directly at 866-311-0580.
The Internet's only all-business and financial radio network, Voice America Business.
You are listening to CIO Talk Radio. To learn more about the show, please visit www.ciotalkradio.com. If you have a question or comment, call toll-free 1-866-472-5790. Now back to the show. Here's Sanjog Gal.
Welcome back. We are talking about productivity levels that can be achieved in desktop environment versus what is possible in Web 2.0. And one of the things which is very obvious is the ability to multitask in a desktop versus in an online application environment. So, Josh, what do you think?
Well, frankly, I think Web 2.0 can actually, in some respects, enhance that kind of multitasking that happens. And what I mean by that is, because it enables access to an application from anywhere, regardless of whether you have your PC or your laptop in front of you, it enables you to multitask in places where you might not otherwise be able to do it. And at home, at your vacation home, wherever it might be. So in that regard, it enables a type of multitasking, and I'm not referring to multitasking of at work, but rather blending the lifestyle of work and personal life. And I think Web 2.0 is a powerful way to sort of blend those two in a way that's right for the employee.
Right.
At GE, we found that Web 2.0 applications can actually improve our productivity. That's how we collaborate. I don't understand the point about multitasking so much. We multitask with multiple web browsers just as easily as we can multiple applications on the desktop. A great example is, think about data collection. In the non-web-based world, we would send around, you might send out a spreadsheet to 20 people and say, can you update these columns on the spreadsheet with your data? And then you send all that back in and you collate it, and there's a lot of administrative work to collapse that together. Or worse yet, two people were editing the same columns, and now you're trying to rationalize, okay, they made these changes, this other person made these changes. With a web-based spreadsheet, you can all edit it online at the same time. You're not passing it around on a memory stick, but you're always working off master simultaneously. And those are huge advantages in terms of simple, manipulation of Office documents, which is what a lot of people do.
So we are saying that Office productivity-related applications are the ones where, if moved to 2.0 world, then we will see the biggest bang for the buck there. Is that what would you say is a true statement? Versus enterprise applications?
I think that's a fair statement, yeah.
Okay, so if we do that, then we know that in our world, in an enterprise IT environment, we deal with much more than that. And my question is, this whole topic was around where people were saying, yes, let's go full speed on Web 2.0, but then why burn the desktop? Because there is also some sort of a lobbying going on where they say we don't want to be in the desktop world, but why that at all?
Well, one of the things we want to try to achieve is better controllership. And so if we can centralize our data, we can actually improve our controllership. Now the question is that cloud external to your enterprise or internal to your enterprise? Clearly right now, with an internal cloud, we can achieve a lot of the security requirements we want and the controllership we want of centrally managed data versus information spread across hundreds of thousands of PCs throughout all of GE. The ability to access that data, control that data, retain it if employees leave, search it for e-discovery, all those sorts of things becomes much easier when you've got a centralized application platform versus a distributed platform across hundreds of thousands of machines.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, so I think you made two really great points. One is that there are incremental ways in which a company can move to kind of a Web 2.0 or a hosted world. There is the idea of having your data out with, you name it, Salesforce.com, but the kind of a more intermediate step is to take, for example, something like Coke Enterprises has done, which is, it's using Microsoft Exchange, hosted Microsoft Exchange and OCS, but it's hosting those applications in its own data center rather than in Microsoft's, one of its many data centers. So that's kind of an incremental step where they have the control that they're looking for, but still have the benefits of a hosted application. The other point I'll mention is that I think Greg is exactly right about searchability and finding information. I mean, employees spend an incredible amount of time just looking for information they know exists, but just can't find it. And the issue, of course, is that it exists oftentimes on a C drive. And, the amount of time that's spent, or I should say wasted, in kind of looking for things that people know exist but they can't find, a lot of that effort, it can be, those problems can be mitigated by having kind of a more open platform where people share information in a more sort of democratic way.
Now, GE being GE, they can afford and also can very well manage an internal cloud. And Web 2.0 world was also offered to other parts of the world and other types of businesses who cannot afford to have an internal cloud. But they will also have the same challenges with respect to being able to control the environment, which is not going to be there. So how are we catering to the rest of the world, the non-GE world? Greg, what do you think they should do?
I think even in the GE world, I run, as one of my responsibilities to run GE's email environment. We have 420,000 email boxes spread throughout the globe. But that pales in comparison to the 90 million on one of these popular consumer email cloud services, right? So I will never achieve the scale of the cloud inside GE, even with the size of GE. So we are still interested in the consumer economics that are possible with a cloud provider. Now, what goes along with that are all the risks of information governance, and how do we manage those risks? So we use some cloud services today, and the way we do that is either through heavy encryption, such that for example, we back up our PCs to the cloud, but they're heavily encrypted, and we hold those keys, so they're not accessible by anyone outside, even the hosting provider. We leverage external cloud services for meetings. There are ways for us to use that cloud that give us some of the advantages of the consumer economics in a secure fashion. I think the challenges businesses will run into is, are these services secure enough for their requirements from an enterprise perspective? Because most of the really large cloud providers have grown out of the consumer space, where people don't have that concern. And so they're for small businesses that don't have a legal department or an IT department, this may be their only option, and it's more secure than anything they can do themselves. But for larger enterprises, there's still a lot of questions about the viability of those solutions, and we've got to work through those. And the reason we're working through them is because we see a lot of benefits in collaborating with external partners, and we see a lot of benefits in terms of consumer scale.
Now, there's a concept related to online versus offline applications, and even there are some applications which are supposed to be browser-based, but then people are talking about, and in fact technologies are being developed where they want to be able to provide the same set of applications offline, even though they are running on a browser. So it is almost like coming back to square one. Only thing is that instead of have a thick client, like a desktop, you have a browser-based client, but you still want to work offline. So people not always have a need to be totally connected. They want to disconnect and be able to sit on a beach in Hawaii and be able to compute and connect on demand and then synchronize.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I see that as a kind of a major step in kind of the mass market adoption of Web 2.0. Is that people are not connected all the time, and the most obvious example in the case of a knowledge worker, someone it's always dangerous to use yourself as an example, but in this particular case, I don't think I'm unique. I'm on a plane a lot. So that's an example of where a hosted application without offline capabilities kind of hinders my ability to get the job done. So that is getting over that stumbling block with some offline capabilities. I think is a big step towards, kind of, as I said, the mass market adoption of Web 2.0.
And I think the other key point is it is still different than desktop access because the master still lives in the cloud. So you still have the advantage of that controllership. You still share things via that master online, not via a flash drive, not via an email attachment that gets stored in a PST, but you use that master that's out in the cloud service when you use a Web 2.0 application as opposed to carrying that around. If I think about myself, I was in a hotel working on a presentation with another GE employee. We were, in the old days it was, okay, here's a flash drive copy of my changes. Let's see how that interacts with your changes, try to mix all those together. What about the three people that weren't in the hotel room that also made changes? With an online document, we can go up, we can work on it. Even if we have to synchronize it, work on it offline, we've got that ability to integrate those changes very easily.
Yeah, I think what you're describing, Greg, is a change in the way people, fundamentally, the way people collaborate. I mean, if you think about the 60s, 70s, I mean, it was very document-centric, where you'd sit around a typewriter or, and you'd send something out via mail to, a memo to a few people. That's kind of very a document-centric approach, whereas, the next evolution was kind of more of a people-centric approach where you might work in Microsoft Office, but as you pointed out, you're emailing and using thumb drives to pass the most recent version around, and it's delivered to a wide group of people via email. And I think what you just described, which is a more recent approach, is more community-centric. And I think that's community is a key word here. I think that's kind of the way collaboration is moving, where you have lots of people working on a document simultaneously, but they're all working more, essentially on a live version of the document.
Now, some organizations are definitely gung-ho about this Web 2.0 and taking all the necessary steps to exploit it. Others are still not looking at it. So can we safely say that the pain is actually not that much, which should kind of create a pervasive adoption? I mean, it is not a pain area. It is a good to have. It's a nice to have versus a must-have. Greg?
At GE, users still rely on the IT organization to ensure the cloud solutions we use are secure. So rather, we get a lot of value out of having one email system across the entire company. In fact, we all use the same email system, that we all have the same address book, and it allows us to collaborate more holistically across the entire corporation. The integration between the organization directory and our file sharing within GE makes it easy to work with any other employee in GE. If you have users off trying different services, there's a half a dozen services you can produce these documents on. It makes sharing much more difficult.
Let's stay tuned, and we'll still discuss the topic about the adoption of the other Web 2.0 applications or the overall Web 2.0, the paradigm of computing. Why is that not as painful for it to cause a pervasive adoption? And if at all the pain exists, what is preventing people from taking that first step? Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Money. Up-to-date business and financial news. Money. Call now and get the financial information you need. 866-472-5790. 866-472-5790. Voice America Business.
Looking for flexible ways to scale your IT efforts? Then visit www.avol.com today. Avol helps companies find the global IT talent they need to align their IT and business objectives. Whether it's hiring top IT leadership talent or building a reliable technology team, Avol delivers. To find out how Avol can help your company, visit www.avol.com or call 1-800-947-2832. Avol, delivering global IT talent. That's www.avol.com. Visit today.
Everyone faces conflict. At home, at work, in the community, in the world. This show is about how to fix those conflicts with practical tips and techniques. Doug Knoll brings to the Internet airwaves the first of its kind, a show that teaches peaceful resolution to life's daily battles. That's Fix Your Conflicts, broadcasting live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Channel.
The bottom line in business. Voice America Business.
You are listening to CIO Talk Radio. To learn more about the show, please visit www.ciotalkradio.com. If you have a question or comment, call toll-free 1-866-472-5790. Now back to the show. Here's Sanjog Gall.
Welcome back. So we are looking at a trend where some organizations are indeed moving full speed towards the Web 2.0 direction, and others are not taking as much interest, or they're moving at a cautious or a slower pace. Why is that? And if there is not going to be a complete adoption within an organization, then the ROI of this new technology may be undermined, or you may not achieve the ROI which you could have otherwise achieved. So what are the trends, and why is this happening? Greg, you want to take it?
No, I think it depends a lot on the capabilities that are already provided to the end users. If they don't have good collaborative capabilities, they're going to use the ones that they find, and they're going to use the ones they use at home. If they've got good alternatives that meet their needs, that deliver the capability they want, then it's easier for them to do that because it's consistent across the company. They'll probably use those first. We clearly are experimenting with a lot of these tools and piloting these tools within GE, and we are a progressive IT organization that wants to give the best tools to our end users. But we are also very concerned about making sure that we've got a secure environment that safeguards all of our intellectual property. And so we've got to look at it in totality. We're not just going to say, go do whatever you want. We're going to make sure we provide great solutions for our end users that meet not only the end user's requirements, but also the business's requirements around security. I think a lot of the adoption is by people who don't have an alternative. They're saying, I don't have a way to do this, I'm going to go do it. If there's an alternative internal that people are using regularly, people tend to take the path of least resistance. There are early adopters, but in many cases, people are interested in getting their job done. They're not interested in trying the latest version of an interface.
Yeah.
So would you say, hold on that thought, Josh, because I wanted to ask this question. Greg, when you are saying that the people are going to do whatever they want to do, so is this Web 2.0 adoption to some extent is a reactionary approach where the rogue IT was to be prevented from becoming pervasive, and then that's why Web 2.0 tools were the main set of tools that the end users were ending up using? Maybe they were their personal tools or whatever, and that's why we are bringing Web 2.0 in the organization.
No, I think Web 2.0 tools are used because they add value. And so if there's a tool out there that adds value and they need a better way to do their job, they're going to try to find that tool. I think it's important for the IT organization to deliver capabilities to their end users so that they can collaborate. If we didn't have a great internal messaging, instant messaging system inside GE, people would be finding ways to do it themselves because they need that capability. If we didn't have, a way to collaborate with documents and share documents and share meetings, people would go out and use external services because they need that capability. I think we believe Web 2.0 capabilities is kind of a broad term, but at the end of the day, it's about collaboration in a big way. It also means many other things, but in terms of collaboration, we need to provide a great collaboration environment because it's critical to our business. And without it, people will go use different tools to achieve the same result.
Yeah, well, I would start by saying I would kind of take issue with the question itself, where you say that companies aren't moving forward full steam ahead with Web 2.0, and I think you need to define that a little bit more carefully, because I would say IT may not be moving fast forward with Web 2.0 because of all the concerns that Greg raised earlier. I will say that employees, smaller business units, smaller groups within the company are moving full steam ahead. So if you go to an organization, and you maybe not today, let's say a year and a half, 2 years ago, you asked an organization, how many wikis do you have internally? And if you asked an IT person, they might say 3 or 4. And then if you kind of delved into the organization, you might find 300 or 400. So it is moving full steam ahead in that regard. And to Greg's point, there is a risk at IT moving too slowly. So in an organization that is less progressive than Greg's, if they move too slowly, the risk is that employees get ingrained with or become accustomed to a technology that is not one provided by IT, and that's the one they know. That's the interface they know. That's the usability they know. That's where their documents lie. And so by the time IT comes around and says, all right, here is my version of it, the secure version of this, people are very reticent to move from the one they know to the one they don't know.
So in a way, what I understand from this, in fact, there was a question that we had to ask, or we were thinking of asking, was what is the actual driver behind this Web 2.0? But it looks like prevention of rogue IT and possibly providing the right tools to the end user is what is the main driver why Web 2.0 is even flourishing today. Is that right?
I think it's, I would say that the driver of Web 2.0 is collaboration. How do you collaborate more efficiently so that essentially decisions can be made faster and better? Collaboration is getting more and more difficult as organizations and employees become more and more dispersed, and that's the driver.
Yeah, it's not about preventing rogue IT. It's about meeting the needs of a global company, right? So global businesses have the need to collaborate with people that are not in the same location as themselves. They need to do it on a 24/7 basis. They need to be able to multitask efficiently and handle lots of different business things that are coming at them all the time. And so they're always looking for more efficient ways to work and improve their own personal productivity. These Web 2.0 applications are driven by a need for people to be able to interact, communicate, share information. We had a great example inside GE where we do something called Lean Action Workout, where we take a business process and we map it out, and we used to map it out on a conference room wall, we still do sometimes, with Post-it notes and try to lay out, here's the process, let's figure out how to optimize that. Well, we've also done that now using a web-based spreadsheet to map out that process in different cells between two groups that were dispersed in different countries. And rather than fly all those people together, they did that online using a web-based spreadsheet and some video technology, and were able to collaborate much more effectively than they could have without it.
And if I can add to that, I think there's even you could even take that, and some organizations do take that even a step further, where what Greg is talking about is identifying a core group of people to get together and identify a process that can be optimized. To take it a step further, one of the things that Web 2.0 enables is for people to essentially volunteer themselves as an expert around a particular area, someone that you may not have identified or you may not have known existed, frankly, in an organization of 300,000+ people. There might be someone who has a lot of value to add, but for whatever reason, they're not on Greg's radar screen or anyone else's radar screen with in the organization. And if they can identify themselves and offer value that wouldn't have otherwise come to the fore, I think that's a powerful thing. And you hear a lot about companies, where they have kind of innovation jams, for example, where they get all these employees online and in one of these kind of Web 2.0 applications, and they kind of start talking about product enhancements, process improvements, and it's where all the employees come together and offer their ideas, and they get kind of rated and bubbled up, and there's this whole process to make those kind of come to fruition. But that's an example of employees who were otherwise kind of off the radar screen can offer great value to the organization.
The question is, are we ready to actually burn the desktop yet? Josh?
Yet, no. I think there are a lot of hurdles that still need to be overcome, and I think Greg has referred to some of them, particularly around security. But I think we are at the early stages of trying to figure those out and trying to work through them, because the economics make sense. It makes sense for a lot of reasons, from a scale perspective, from a collaboration perspective, from a kind of maintenance support perspective, from a cost perspective. So all of those things are coming together, but there's this sort of impediment that is security, and that's what's kind of, I think, one of the major factors that is kind of prohibiting kind of the sort of wholesale changeover today. But I think as time goes on, we're likely to see a lot more of these kind of web-based applications than we see today.
The desktop is really, I think, a different classification and discussion. It's one way to access these applications, and freeing up the applications from the desktop allows us to access them in many different ways, through mobile devices, for example. So I think mobility is another factor that's driving the desire for more Web 2.0 based applications, because then you can get to them wherever you're at without having to somehow virtually connect to your desktop PC and leave it on somewhere. You can go and get to the information because it's maintained in that cloud, and you can access it from any device. And one of those devices that we're going to access it from for a long time is the desktop. I don't see that going away, but I do see an opportunity to reduce the number of desktop applications in favor of cloud-based applications. And as you do that over time, then perhaps the desktop will go away. But we don't need to go burn it. We need to, if it becomes obsolete, it'll go away on its own.
Yeah, you mentioned mobility, Greg, and I think that's one of the areas where Web 2.0, or really what we're talking about here, is perhaps hosted applications can really come to the fore within an organization, because one of the fears that organizations have when deploying mobile applications, that is, mobile applications on a mobile device, is losing data. If there's a lot of valuable data that resides on that device and the device is lost or stolen, or the employee quits, there's a fear that goes with that valuable information goes away with the device. Whereas with a hosted application, that overcomes a lot of those concerns, because the application, again, isn't on the device; it's remote. And so I think sort of hosted applications, or Web 2.0, whatever you want to call it, can play a prominent role in sort of making the organization more mobile.
Now, how far are we, you think? I mean, of course, we don't have crystal ball, but then how far are we from being able to actually let go of this desktop world?
Well, first of all, Sanjog, I'm a consultant, so I do have a crystal ball. I know all the answers.
Okay. Hey.
I'm joking.
Love to have you here.
No, I think we're many years away. I mean, I think we're you can't predict the future, but 5 years from now, you're going to have loads and loads of desktop applications, and that's not going to change. This is a very slow, deliberate migration that happens on an application by application basis. I don't foresee a company tomorrow saying we are going to be all hosted, all Web 2.0, all the time, starting tomorrow.
Let's take a quick break, listeners. We'll be right back after these messages and look at this another trend where even when we are building web applications, we are trying to mimic desktop applications and the type of features and functions that we want. Is that a step in the right direction? And if we are going to keep bringing back the old memories with respect to how an application works or looks and feels, then are we preventing that adoption by bringing nostalgia into the mix? Please stay tuned. We'll be right back and discuss this topic.
Stocks, bonds, 401ks, investments, refinancing. We can help you. Call now toll free 866-472-5790. 866-472-5790. Voice America Business.
Looking for flexible ways to scale your IT efforts? Then visit www.avol.com today. Avol helps companies find the global IT talent they need to align their IT and business objectives. Whether it's hiring top IT leadership talent or building a reliable technology team, Avol delivers. To find out how Avol can help your company, visit www.avol.com or call 1-800-947-2832. Avol, delivering global IT talent. That's www.avol, A-V-V-A-L, avol.com. Visit today.
Are you still doing EDI in-house? Then put your effort into your business and contact Promethean, the industry's most trusted provider of managed EDI services. Promethean has been providing cost savings and reliable service to Fortune 1000 clients for over 15 years. Our solution is platform independent and enables our clients to reach higher levels of performance. Join Promethean and say goodbye to old technology. For more information, please sign on to www.prometheanssi.com or call us directly at 866-311-0580.
Income Property Investment Talk with Peter Mosca and Dean Issa provides homeowners and investors eager to invest well in real estate the knowledge, resources, and tools necessary to generate significant wealth. Our focus will be the paradigm. Live where you want. Invest where it makes the most sense. Listen live to the brightest minds in real estate investment every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Channel. That's Income Property Investment Talk with Peter Mosca and Dean Issa, where America learns to invest.
The Internet's only all business and financial radio network, Voice America Business.
You are listening to CIO Talk Radio. To learn more about the show, please visit www.ciotalkradio.com. If you have a question or comment, call toll-free 1-866-472-5790. Now back to the show. Here's Sanjog Gal.
Welcome back. So we are coming back to the type of applications which are being made as Web 2.0, but then we still want to have the feature function and the look and feel and the navigation, etc., looking like a desktop. So we still are nostalgic. And if we are like that, why are we letting go of that just to put it on a cloud? And of course, yes, there is better collaboration, but is that the only thing which should actually be the basis of us spending another set of millions of dollars? Correct?
The benefits are multifaceted. One is, as you stated, the collaborative benefits of being out in the cloud, allowing you to work with more external people. There's also the benefit of consumer economic scale. How can you get beyond the scale of just your business and leverage the scale of somebody else? I think that's even more important to a small company who doesn't have the scale to deliver some of these applications very effectively. They can go get this capability from a provider and get scale very quickly and deliver functionality very quickly to their users in a manner that's scaled for great cost reduction.
Josh.
Frankly, I don't have a lot to add to that. I think that Greg is right on the money, and I think I don't have a lot to add to that.
Okay, so coming to the next angle that people are looking at is, or that's one of the features they say, it's Web 2.0. I don't even have to worry about upgrading. It just upgrades and gives me the latest and greatest. But then we've also seen buying a new operating system or buying a new application only to know that it is super slow, and we uninstall and put a previous version in. How easy is that you, if in this Web 2.0 world, and if suppose we are looking at a provider, a third-party provider, which is selling it as a service, why would they do it? Because it would be literally financially a disaster for them to carry multiple upgrades because one person thinks it's slower and the other person thinks, no, it's a cool thing to do. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, so one of the things I would kind of I would add to what you're saying is that the idea of an upgrade that comes is pushed out by the hoster, the hosted provider, and that the organization doesn't have to worry about is great in an environment where you have an application that doesn't interact with any other applications in your organization. But there are actually significant sort of integration and challenges that happen when that application actually has to integrate with another application that might be web-based, it might not be web-based. But the point is there's a lot of time and effort that needs to go into that type of integration. And so I think that the simplicity with that a lot of hosting providers market is a little bit overblown, to be perfectly honest.
Now, a question
go ahead. You asked before the break about, a lot of these 2.0 applications are mimicking desktop applications. And one of the things that I think we need to be able to do is facilitate the change, right? So one of the reasons they do that is to make it easier for people to adapt to these new tools. At the same time, the ability to upgrade them very, very rapidly allows the morphing of those interfaces into something much more powerful over time. So you may start with something that has a very simple interface. That 2-week development cycle of, hey, here's a new feature functionality, can allow you to take that application and make it much more powerful, much more quickly than the life cycle of software that's installed on a desktop.
That's exactly right. And the other thing I would mention is that, just around the question itself, you said, people are yearning for that PC application. Well, to your earlier question, Sanjog, who's yearning for that PC application? Because it's probably not the millennials. It's probably not the 18 to 30-year-old that you've hired. Perhaps it is your older, your boomers are yearning for it. So there is a distinction. In fact, your younger employees are probably yearning for more web applications than they are for the desktop applications.
But then we don't want IT to be becoming getting the blame of being discriminatory on basis of the age or the kind of generation.
Oh no, I wouldn't suggest that they create any sort of segmentation and to say that here's who gets web application and here's who doesn't. I'm simply suggesting that they need to balance the demands of their organization. If for example, if their organization is heavily skewed towards a younger generation, then perhaps I would argue it makes more sense to have more Web 2.0 type applications because the organization is ready for it.
One of the things the web's done is it's made people less application-centric and more information-centric. So when people go to a website, they don't expect it to look the same every day, the way they expect an application to look the same every day. They expect it to change. They expect to be able to go into that website often and get information out that they're looking for. That's typically what our knowledge worker wants. They want to go somewhere and get some information out. And the nice thing about the web is it's trained people that it's okay that there's different information on that website when you go to it. You still know how to get there. It's very user-friendly in terms of you don't typically train people on how to go to a website and click on a link. They just do it, and they click again, and they see another website. So they become very accustomed to when they go into their web browser, they're going in there to get information out. And it's not about going in there to access an application that they then fall in love with and never want to change. It's about going to the web and getting the information they need, potentially manipulating that information, and sharing that with others. And that, I think, opens up, independent of generational discussions, the mind towards, hey, it's okay that it changes.
And that Yeah, and that gets to another attribute of Web 2.0, which is customizability, if that's even a word, where the end user can customize how that application looks so that they're getting just the information that they want or they need for their particular role. But that might be different than the person who's sitting next to them who has a different interface because they need different information. And that's one of the more powerful attributes of Web 2.0, that flexibility and ease with which information can be tailored to an individual's particular need.
Now, very last question, just a minute available. What do you think people should do at this time so that they can best have these two coexisting models or worlds with the maximum ROI for individual respective investments, desktop and the Web 2.0? Greg?
I think you need to focus on how to make change happen quickly. You need to be able to, your IT department in your company needs to be able to help employees get the most out of their day. We need to be able to adapt. We need to help people to adapt by delivering them tools that are flexible and enable them to work in a global environment. There will be, at times, multiple environments, right? So if you're transitioning from one environment to another, there's going to be that overlap. That's all the more reason you need to go quickly to minimize the amount of overlap time. And that's true even when you upgrade from one Web.0 type solution to another Web.0 solution, right? So if you can upgrade from one Web 1.0 to Web 2.0 and get more collaborative and more capability, then that overlap has more value because you're going to get more out of it. So
and I would add to that quickly that, to your question around how do you ensure you get the highest ROI, I think, one of the surest ways to do that is do exactly what Greg was talking about earlier, identify a business process, map it out, and then figure out how a Web 2.0 technology can enhance that business process, and that's the fastest way and easiest way to establish a hard ROI.
On behalf of the show and our listeners, I'd really like to thank you, Greg and Josh, for sharing your thoughts about how can we go to the Web 2.0 world, not exactly burn the desktop today, but then slowly phase it out so that we get the best for all the different generations of workforce that we are dealing with today. Thank you. And there's no doubt that Web 2.0 has changed the way we think and compute today. And however, is it going to be compelling for us to let go of our personal computers tomorrow? That's not going to be the case, but of course, in due course of time, that may happen. Are you attempting to replace all desktops in your organization? What kind of a pushback are you getting? Please let us know your thoughts and or stories and send them to views@ciotalkradio.com. That is views@ciotalkradio.com. Thank you again for listening to CIO Talk Radio, brought to you by Promethean, the leader in managed EDI services. This is Sanjog Aul, your talk show host. Till next week, take care and God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to CIO Talk Radio. To learn more about the show, please visit www.ciotalkradio.com. Join Sanjog Aul next Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific for another hour of CIO Talk Radio.